On the way home after buying a game, Kazuma Satu, a sleep-deprived shut-in, sees a girl about to be run over by a truck. He pushes her out of the way and finds himself in a strange dimension where the goddess Aqua says he is dead. Before we continue with the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share the video with your friends, and subscribe to the channel to help us keep bringing more summaries like this. Now, let's get to the video. Kazuma thinks he saved the girl, but Aqua corrects him. What he thought was a truck was a tractor that would have stopped. Kazuma died from shock, much to everyone's amusement. Aqua convinces him to be transported to an RPG-like world to fight a demon king. She tells him how to receive powerful items or abilities, but he notices a warning in the manual about possibly losing his sanity. Kazuma chooses Aqua as a cheating item. An angel informs him that the gods will grant any wish after his success. They are transported to the city of Axel, where Aqua cannot help until the defeat of the Demon King. At the Adventurers Guild, they find out they need to pay an entry fee. Aqua asks for money from a priest, but he belongs to a rival order. Luna explains the adventurer's class and card system. Kazuma can only be a generic adventurer, while Aqua can be an archwizard. They spend weeks working as construction workers before remembering they need to go on adventures. Kazuma becomes frustrated seeing Aqua sleeping late and complaining about the lack of financial security for beginner adventurers. Still, he spends time watching her sleep. On their first mission, they must defeat 5 giant frogs in 3 days. Kazuma only takes a short sword. While outside the city, one of the giant frogs attacks them. Aqua laughs as Kazuma fights for his life. When Aqua lists the terms to save him, the frog swallows her. Kazuma manages to kill the frog while it is immobile. Aqua, covered in frog saliva, tearfully thanks him, but Kazuma is disgusted. Later, Megumin, a powerful archwizard but obsessed with a single spell, joins them. During the mission, she uses her explosion magic to defeat the giant frogs, but ends up being swallowed by one of them. Kazuma saves her, completing the mission. Back in town, Megumin explains that she can only use her explosion magic once a day. Kazuma laments her low level and the lack of reward for the mission. Darkness, a crusader, offers to join the group. Kazuma notices Darkness excited about the idea of him supposedly mistreating Aqua and Megumin, hears her admit her lack of accuracy when attacking, but she is still determined to join the group. At the guild, he belittles Aqua's skills and argues with Megumin, while Darkness and a thief named Chris approach. Chris offers to teach Kazuma thief skills in exchange for drinks, and during a demonstration, Kazuma ends up accidentally stealing Chris's panties. They return to the guild where Chris reports a distorted version of the incident, which leaves Kazuma uncomfortable. Luna issues an emergency mission to capture flying cabbages, and the group sets out. As the battle unfolds, Darkness protects the wounded, Megumin uses her explosion, and Aqua uses her skills to help. In the end, they celebrate with fried cabbages, and Darkness officially joins the group even though Kazuma is uncomfortable with it. Kazuma learns basic magic to create elemental things. Darkness and Megumin buy a new outfit and magic staff with harvest rewards. Aqua, with devalued harvest, begs and blackmails Kazuma, who helps her. The next day, Kazuma changes clothes to match the fashion. He looks for easy missions, but weak monsters have disappeared due to a nearby Demon King general. In the following weeks, Kazuma accompanies Megumin on daily exercises away from the city. Aqua works various jobs, and Darkness returns home to train. Kazuma considers giving up on defeating the Demon King, causing friction with Aqua. In a meeting, Beldia, the Demon King general, threatens that someone will cast magic at his castle every day. Megumin volunteers to face him, but is cursed. Darkness is cursed when trying to protect her. Beldia proposes to lift the curse if Megumin reaches him in his castle. Megumin and Kazuma plan to invade, but Aqua breaks the curse on Darkness, surprising everyone. Kazuma worries again about the mundane life of fantasy, while Aqua insists on doing missions to pay off her debts. Kazuma stops her from choosing a mission to end the war between a manticore and a griffin, so Aqua opts to purify a lake near Axel, infested with brutal alligators. Aqua purifies the water just by touching it, but purifying an entire lake takes half a day. For safety, she asks the rest of the group to go as bodyguards. Kazuma rents a small iron cage at the guild and locks Aqua inside it. Despite her relative resignation, the group takes the cage to Lake Riverhead, where Aqua purifies the water, while Kazuma, Megumin, and Darkness watch from a distance. After a few hours, the lake is purified, and the brutal alligators are driven away. Traumatized, Aqua refuses to leave the cage. Sword Master Mitsurugi Kyuya, with his cursed sword Graham, given by Aqua, returns to Axel after subduing an ancient dragon. He sees Aqua being taken in a cage and frees her. Aqua, reminded by Kazuma that she is a goddess, comes out more lively. Mitsurugi confronts Kazuma for bringing Aqua to this world and making her sleep in a stable. He challenges Kazuma to a duel, with Aqua as the stake, but Kazuma wins with a surprise attack and steals Mitsurugi's sword. The next day, Aqua complains to Luna about the cost of the cage that Mitsurugi broke, and Mitsurugi, informed by Chris, confronts Kazuma about his actions. Luna summons all adventurers to the city gates, where Beldia awaits them. Kazuma becomes furious upon discovering that Megumin and Aqua continued their daily explosion exercises at the abandoned castle. Beldia is furious that they let Darkness die from the curse. Darkness, flattered by being called a model knight, steps forward, shocking Beldia to see that she is still alive. Aqua laughs at Beldia's failure to realize that his curse has been lifted before casting Turn Undead, causing pain to the Dullahan. Surprised to find someone as powerful as him in Axel, Beldia summons an army of undead knights and orders them to massacre the city's inhabitants. The undead knights chase Aqua, seeking salvation from a goddess. Aqua and Kazuma run towards Beldia before leaping so Megumin can cast Explosion on all the clustered undead, earning new nicknames from the other adventurers. Beldia survives the explosion. A group of adventurers attacks him, but he eliminates them. With Mitsurugi unarmed, Darkness steps up to stop him but misses all her attacks. Kazuma creates water to freeze Beldia in place but fails to steal his sword. Kazuma remembers that the undead are vulnerable to water, so he and the other mages create a powerful flood strong enough to damage the city's outer walls. Kazuma steals Beldia's head, which Aqua purifies. Darkness prays for the dead adventurers, only to discover that they have been resurrected by Aqua. The next day, at the guild, the adventurers celebrate. Kazuma tells his group that, now rich, he intends to return to being a shut-in. Luna says they have to pay for the damage from the flood to the city, leaving them in heavy debt. This reignites Kazuma's determination to defeat the Demon King to escape this world. During a harsh winter day, while other adventurers enjoy their rewards for defeating Beldia, Kazuma wishes for more money to pay off the group's huge debt. Checking the available missions, he rejects the options to subdue white wolves and one-punch bears that Darkness and Megumin choose and decides to investigate something called the Destroyer. He and Aqua then opt for the mission to subdue snow fairies, which disturbs Megumin and excites Darkness. Dressed in winter clothes, they head to the snowy forest where the snow fairies gather. Kazuma cuts down the fleeing fairies, while Aqua captures and bottles them to keep cool for the summer, and Megumin faints after using Explosion on some of them. The Winter Shogun, protector of the snow fairies, appears. Darkness tries to resist, but has her sword cut. Aqua releases the captured snow fairies and advises her companions to surrender, but Darkness refuses. Kazuma tries to push her head down, but forgetting to let go of his sword, he is decapitated by the Winter Shogun. In the afterlife dimension, Eris offers her condolences to Kazuma. He laments his reincarnated life and misses his companions, leading Eris to try to reincarnate him in Japan. However, Kazuma finds himself crying as he realizes how much he misses them. Aqua intervenes, bringing him back to life, and they return to the parallel world. There, Kazuma refuses to thank Aqua for resurrecting him and is disappointed when comparing her to Eris. He decides they are too weak to tackle winter missions, and, upon returning to the guild, he and his companions discover they still have a heavy debt to pay, reigniting his determination to defeat the Demon King. Aqua warms herself by a fire near the frozen stables, but Kazuma stops her from using her clothes as fuel. Later, they go to Wiz's shop, where Kazuma repeatedly has to stop Aqua from purifying the shop's owner, a lich, who insults the Axis Order and reveals herself to be one of the Demon King's 8 generals. Unlike Beldia, Wiz has never harmed anyone and only helps maintain the magical barrier surrounding the Demon King's castle. They drink tea as Kazuma expresses interest in learning lich skills, so Wiz teaches him Drain Touch. However, when he demonstrates it on Aqua, she is nearly purified until he interrupts. Weakened by the experience, Wiz offers them a mission from a real estate agent to purify the ghosts haunting an abandoned mansion where they can live during the mission. They move in, clean the place, and Aqua tells the story of the ghost haunting the mansion. During the night, Aqua discovers that someone drank her precious drink, so she goes around the mansion casting Turn Undead on any ghost she finds. Needing to use the bathroom during the night, Kazuma sees dolls around him. He runs to Aqua's room, where he finds only Megumin, and they argue about how to relieve the situation. When the dolls chase them, they lock themselves in a room, where Megumin panics and Kazuma tries to escape but discovers that Aqua has already purified all the dolls possessed by the ghosts. The next day, they receive the mission's reward at the guild, but discover that the ghosts haunted the mansion because someone cast a magical barrier. Under pressure, Aqua confesses that it was her who made the barrier to avoid purifying the cemetery every day. They agree not to accept the reward, and Kazuma has to save his clothes from being used as firewood. While Megumin and Darkness play a board game in the living room, Aqua asks Kazuma to give up his seat on the couch near the fireplace. He agrees out of pity, realizing that her intelligence won't improve. The next day, Kazuma finds Dust and Keith mustering up the courage to enter a cafe run by succubi, known only to male adventurers. They enter together, where they receive explanations about the establishment's services. Kazuma makes an unusual request. Upon returning to the mansion, Kazuma and his companions prepare crabs for dinner, which they all eagerly devour. During the meal, Kazuma refuses a special drink, worried about its impact on his dreams. At bedtime, Kazuma decides to take a bath, but is interrupted by Darkness. He thinks he's dreaming and makes a strange request. However, the situation is interrupted by an alarm. The next day, Kazuma pretends he was under the influence of a spell as he reconciles with Darkness. An urgent news is announced about a threat to the city. While Luna warns of evacuation and summons adventurers at the guild, Aqua and Megumin prepare to flee from the mobile fortress destroyer. Kazuma, determined to save his home, devises a plan with other adventurers. Darkness, revealing her noble identity, stands guard outside the city while barricades are erected. Aqua breaks the destroyer's barrier, allowing attacks from Megumin and Wiz. After self-destruction is announced, Darkness advances, followed by the adventurers. Kazuma leads an invasion, taking Aqua and Wiz to the control room where they find the destroyer's operator. With Wiz's help, the power source is teleported away, but the accumulated heat threatens the city. Kazuma recharges Megumin, who destroys the destroyer. The inhabitants return, but Kazuma is accused of treason for the damage caused. For ordering the teleport of the destroyer's Coronatite core, which exploded in Governor Aldart's mansion without causing casualties, Kazuma is accused of treason by the royal prosecutor Senna. Megumin and Darkness speak in his favor, revealing his sexual harassment. The other adventurers also defend Kazuma, but Senna threatens them. Kazuma is arrested, and while in prison, Megumin and Darkness distract the guards with explosions, but Kazuma fails to escape. Aqua tries to help, but her plans fail. In court, Kazuma is interrogated and forced to admit he is a shut-in. He is accused of being connected to the Demon King's generals. During the trial, his friends testify against him, but he denies the accusations. In the end, Darkness intercedes for Kazuma, postponing his sentence. Meanwhile, the mansion is invaded to pay off the debt. While Kazuma and Aqua are freezing in their mansion, worried about Darkness, Megumin asks for permission to keep a cat named Komasuk, who is friendly with Kazuma but hostile with Aqua. Kazuma and Aqua explain that Darkness would provoke Aldarp to abuse her and launch Megumin into a panic. Senna gives Kazuma the task of subduing the giant toads in the snowy plains around Axel, as they were awakened by Megumin's repeated explosions before the trial. Aqua is pursued by a pink giant toad, while the exhausted Megumin is swallowed by another. Kazuma hits the one chasing Aqua, but it doesn't kill it, so he uses his sword when it's busy swallowing Aqua. 3 giant toads of varying colors approach and swallow Aqua and Senna. Just as Kazuma is about to be eaten too, Yun annihilates all the giant toads with a saber light, freeing the girls, now covered in a stinky slime. Megumin pretends not to recognize her self-proclaimed rival, who just saved her until she makes an embarrassing Crimson Demon-style presentation. After Aqua and Senna bid farewell, Megumin agrees to a hand-to-hand combat contest. Yun admits defeat because Megumin is covered in slime, but Megumin still hugs Yun to get her all dirty. On the way back, Megumin gives Kazuma the manatite she won from Yun. He tells Megumin that she is prettier than Yun, so she also hugs him all dirty. Back at the mansion, Kazuma and Megumin argue over who takes a bath first and end up getting into the bath together. When they realize this puts them in a compromising position, Aqua returns from selling to the guild, so Kazuma uses his magic power to freeze the bathroom door. Aqua calls for Megumin, but doesn't try to enter, so Kazuma feels relieved. This infuriates Megumin because she is sensitive about her age. Kazuma can't move, having spent his energy on freeze, so he has to ask Aqua to save him from Megumin. The next day, Kazuma takes his companions to Wiz's shop to discuss paying off their debts. They find Yun waiting there for them. While Megumin tells how Yun was lonely during her school days, Aqua notices a friendship crystal for sale. Yunyun challenges Megumin to use the crystal, which displays images of their most embarrassing moments. Wiz explains that this is to create friendship between the users, but this inflames Megumin to the point where she breaks the crystal and claims to have overcome such childish competitions. This leads Yunyun to challenge Megumin to a maturity competition based on physical development, but Megumin mocks it as a measure of maturity and mentions how she had taken a bath with Kazuma, making Yunyun run away in tears. Megumin considers this another victory. After days of accompanying Megumin's explosion exercises, Kazuma realizes they can't survive just by selling milk and vegetables from Aqua. He decides to explore Keel's dungeon, following a tip from Luna about newly discovered routes. Ignoring protests from Megumin and preventing Dust from accompanying them, Kazuma enters the dungeon alone, using his thief skills to avoid enemies. Aqua follows him to protect him from the undead, which render her skills useless. They find the upper level already emptied of treasures. Meanwhile, Megumin practices her poses outside. Under Komasuk, Kazuma gets furious with Aqua for trying to burn his shirt and wasting money on drinks. He steals Aqua's Hagoromo and makes her bubble with anger. Darkness appears in her heiress dress, explaining that Aldarp is asking her to marry his son Walther. Darkness asks the group for help to avoid the marriage, as she prefers someone perverted and useless, the opposite of Walther. Kazuma tears a picture of Walther out of jealousy, but Aqua fixes it with rice. Senna appears and asks Kazuma to deal with monsters that are appearing in Axel. Kazuma sends Megumin to solve the problem. Kazuma, Darkness, and Aqua go to Darkness's family mansion for the wedding. Kazuma and Aqua dress up as a butler and maid to help with the plan to stop the marriage and receive a reward. During the interview with Walther, Kazuma freezes Darkness's neck whenever she tries to speak out of turn. Darkness challenges Walther to a duel, but he admires her even more for her frankness. Kazuma and Darkness end up in a confrontation, and Kazuma uses threats to win. After the confusion, Ignis asks Kazuma to take care of Darkness. She wakes up and pretends to be pregnant with Kazuma, unaware that Walther has already rejected the marriage because he suspected the love between Darkness and Kazuma. Senna arrives looking for Kazuma, accompanied by Megumin. Senna informs Kazuma about the monster invasion after their last exploration of the Keel dungeon. Kazuma offers to investigate and discovers that Aqua left a magic circle to protect the area, preventing the monsters from spreading. Afraid of being blamed for the monsters, Kazuma leads a mission with his group. Upon entering the dungeon, they are attacked by dolls that detonate upon hugging someone. Aqua refuses to enter because of past resentment, staying outside with Megumin. Darkness accompanies Kazuma and successfully faces the dolls. Inside the dungeon, they encounter Vanir, a Duke of Hell, shaping the dolls. Vanir reveals his plan to create a dungeon to attract adventurers and enjoys their reactions. He tries to kill Aqua, but Darkness resists his control. Kazuma and Darkness manage to neutralize Vanir, but he takes control of Darkness's body. Aqua uses her power to purify Vanir, and Darkness survives the resulting explosion. For his heroism, Kazuma is rewarded and his charges of treason are dropped. Kazuma and Darkness tell Wiz about Vanir's death, but they discover that he has been reborn. Vanir now works for Wiz and partners with Kazuma, designing goods from Kazuma's world. This includes a kotatsu that he uses all the time, even pushing Aqua away when she invites him out. Kazuma is thrown out the window with the kotatsu after resisting Megumin and Darkness's efforts to get him out. At the guild, they accept a mission to subdue the lizard runners. Kazuma leads the group, but his plan fails when he fails to identify the Lizard King. Aqua lures the lizard runners to them, allowing them to identify the king. Megumin fails to cast an explosion because her energy has been drained. Darkness and Aqua are trampled. Kazuma kills the lizard princess, but falls and breaks his neck. Back with Eris, Kazuma apologizes. Eris reveals that Darkness protected Megumin and that Aqua was not harmed. Kazuma decides to be reborn as a baby after initially refusing, but changes his mind upon hearing about something Megumin did to his body. Vanir breaks Aqua's magic barrier and offers to buy the intellectual property rights to products made with Kazuma's memories for 300 million Eris. Kazuma and Aqua, excited about the idea of no longer needing to work, spend the day talking and relaxing at the mansion, which intrigues Megumin. Kazuma suggests hiring adventurers with his fortune to defeat the Demon King, provoking Megumin's anger and Aqua's approval. They decide to take a recovery trip to Arkanlesia, the city of hot springs. The next day, they pack their bags early. While Kazuma goes to the carriage terminal, Aqua goes to wake up Megumin and Darkness, but makes a detour to talk to Vanir at Wiz's shop. Kazuma hears about how Vanir knocked out Wiz with an I-beam. Vanir asks Kazuma to take Wiz on the trip so he can return his unsold stock. Yunyun goes to their mansion with gifts, but finds the house empty. Kazuma explains the situation to his companions and drains Darkness's life to revive Wiz. They board a carriage with a baby red dragon. During the trip, the caravan stops to face running Hawkites, and Kazuma realizes that Darkness's armor is attracting the monsters. After the battle, they continue the journey towards Arkanlisha. The running Hawkites continue their gal's run, running towards the tied-up Darkness before veering off at the last moment, which both excites and embarrasses Kazuma. Aqua blesses Darkness, and the other adventurers fight the running Hawkites, with them returning for another charge. Kazuma suggests everyone get into the carriage upon hearing about a nearby cave. As Darkness is too heavy to be carried, they tie her to the carriage. As the carriage heads towards the cave with the running Hawkites in pursuit, Wiz sinks some of them with bottomless swamp, while Aqua continuously heals Darkness. Upon reaching the cave, Kazuma throws Darkness towards the entrance, so the running Hawkites jump over her and into the cave. Megumin explodes the trapped monsters with explosion. That night, as the caravan camps along the road, Kazuma refuses the caravan leader's rewards and fixes Darkness's armor, while Aqua and Wiz entertain the caravan. Later, Kazuma and Darkness are awakened by zombies approaching. They go to Aqua, who purifies them along with Wiz in a divine spectacle, fascinating the rest of the caravan. The next day, Yunyun visits Kazuma's mansion, but finds it empty. They arrive at the city of Arkanlisha, where Kazuma and his companions disembark. Despite Megumin's absence, Kazuma carries the unconscious Wiz. After checking into the caravan leader's inn, Aqua takes Megumin to the main cathedral of the Axis Order. Kazuma stays at the inn to help Wiz recover, while Darkness accompanies him through the city. Kazuma goes to the main cathedral of the Axis Order, sits in the confessional, and asks Aqua to control her followers. However, his requests are deflected to confess his sins. He tries to confess several transgressions committed against her, but Aqua drags him into her compartment and cries uncontrollably, while Darkness and Megumin are eager to leave, with Megumin traumatized by an incident involving Axis followers. An Axis follower enters the confessional. Aqua consoles him until he cries, before revealing that Eris uses padding. After the follower leaves, Aqua explains to Kazuma that gods are strengthened by the devotion they receive, so she needs to protect her followers, who provide her with fanatical worship despite being few. Back at the inn, Kazuma discovers that Wiz has already bathed in the hot springs and cannot convince Darkness or Megumin to join him in the mixed bath. Upon returning to the springs, he overhears Megumin having fun with Konosuke and Darkness in the women's bath. Sensing that he is spying, they lure him closer by discussing him and pretending to caress each other. Darkness then throws him against the fence, starting a battle. Aqua cries about being expelled from Arkanlisha's secret spring, and the Axis followers appear at the inn, declaring their intention to lynch Aqua for impersonating their goddess. The party escapes from the inn in an improvised balloon created by Aqua, and at her request, they go to investigate the main spring in the mountains behind the main cathedral. They are stopped by the guards, but manage to enter with the pressure of Darkness's family crest. At the main spring, they find Hans, the deadly poisonous slime mutated, responsible for the contamination of the hot springs. Realizing that Hans is one of the Demon King's generals and that those digested by slimes cannot be resurrected, they detain him. When Hans reveals that he ate the man responsible for maintaining the springs, Wiz freezes Hans with the cursed crystal prison. Hans takes on a giant form and spreads poison everywhere. Aqua desperately purifies the spring, and the crowd begins to throw things at Hans while Darkness and Wiz take care of Aqua. Megumin cannot explode Hans without polluting the mountain, and Wiz cannot freeze him because he is too large. Kazuma notices the man's bones still undigested inside Hans, so upon hearing that Aqua can resurrect people in this state, he gives instructions to Megumin and Wiz before provoking Hans to chase him. Kazuma is devoured, but Megumin explodes Hans, followed by Wiz freezing him again. Hans, now reduced to the size of a pet, tries to devour Wiz in Darkness, but Aqua destroys him with a god requiem, her anger increased by the fanatical singing of the Axis followers. With all the city's hot springs purified and the devoured people resurrected, the party is expelled from Arkanlisha. As they return to Axel by carriage, they are greeted by their friends, and Kazuma looks forward to a peaceful rest at home. And thus, we conclude the 2 seasons of the Konosuba anime. That was today's content. We hope you enjoyed it. Remember to share the video, leave your like, and stay tuned for the next video. Take care.